Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Morgan. I'm a volunteer with AARP Maryland, and I'm a member of the Executive Council. I'm here to bring you another in a series of really informative conversations related to fraud and the prevention of fraud. This is Protect Week. We started Protect Week really June 11th, and we'll be continuing it through this week. And we are focusing on prevention of elder fraud, elder financial abuse. It's a serious problem, and we need to allocate resources to keep the money that people earn with them instead of it going to scammers and crooks. So here with me today are two awesome guests who know a lot about how to prevent fraud. We have Angie Barnett, who is with the Better Business Bureau, and Armand Gotoya, who's with the Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Maryland. So let me tell you a little bit about Angie Barnett. She is president and CEO of the Better Business Bureau of Greater Maryland. For the past 16 years, she has provided executive leadership to ensure that the local BBB provides the business services such as dispute resolution. Over 10,000 disputes have been handled in Maryland's business community, while focusing on brand exposure so that customers and potential customers know to visit bbb.org to find businesses that they can trust. In 2020, 2 million unique visitors checked out a Maryland business through the Better Business Bureau. So thank you so much for being with us today, Angie. We really appreciate your taking time to share your knowledge with us.
Now, thank you so much.
Oh, sure. And let me tell you a little bit about Armand Gotoya. He is the Community Outreach Manager at Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Maryland, or what we like to call CCCSMD, overseeing all the partnership engagement and education efforts. He is also a HUD certified housing counselor, and he is bilingual, assisting clients in English and Spanish. And with over 25 years of experience on credit-related subjects and debt management programs, he has been featured on radio stations for live on-air business talk shows and financial articles in media outlets such as U.S. News and World Report. And he is a proud veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces. So Armand, thank you for being here with us, and thank you for your service, and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's my pleasure.
Well, let's get started. So let me put my first question to Angie Barnett. What do you think are the factors that could contribute to an increase in scams and fraud perpetrated against small businesses these days?
Great question. And so many people think about scam fraud as being a consumer issue. Scam artists trying to take advantage of individuals. But we always want to remind people, small businesses are very susceptible. Right now, I'm going to say, Karen, I think the number one reason is hard times. Businesses are receiving emails, letters, communications from government entities from the SBA or for PPP funding or EIDL funding, all these types of government subsidies to help us through these challenging times. And we also are getting lots of information from unemployment agencies, employment placement. So we are being asked to provide a lot of business information, our bank account, checking account numbers, tax ID numbers, all types of information. And so we really, as a business, we are more susceptible to scams because it's so easy to pose as a government entity. We also have increased reliance on text messaging, all types of social media platforms, and that makes it it increases the likelihood that we're going to engage with a scammer. So it's not just individuals, it's businesses, same kind of thing.
Wow. And I mean, just out of curiosity, do small business bank accounts have the same types of protections that a typical individual bank account might have?
Yeah, and Karen, that's a great question to actually be asking a banker directly. And it depends on the type of account, who it's with, because remember, for consumers, different credit cards, different creditors provide different types of support. So it's really a great conversation to get that directly from whomever you're choosing to bank with, and ask them about what special protections do they already provide? What additional protections can I get?
Right. But if you're a business owner, you may be having a different kind of conversation than what you would have if you were just John Q. Citizen walking into a bank.
Absolutely. And think about it, as a business owner, I use various platforms for my HR management to pay my bills. So I am really using technology to be the engine of my business execution day to day. So I am susceptible to data breaches. I am susceptible to, all types of things. So I'm going to ask my creditors, my bankers, and I'm going to look at the protections that my platforms, the applications and platforms, subscriptions that I'm purchasing. I'm going to look at the types of protection I have with all of them.
Hmm. Thank you. And Armand, let me ask you, what, from the CCCSMD perspective, what can organizations and individuals do to avoid being scammed?
Well, again, the great questions are no shortage of them. So I appreciate that. There's actually several actions that businesses can take in order to minimize their exposure to fraud. One of the most important steps, in my opinion, Karen, is to ensure that your staff is properly trained.
Hmm.
As a financial services agency, we here at CCCSMD, we deal with sensitive data on a regular basis. We're constantly taking steps to ensure that that PII, which is the personal identifiable information, is that we collect is safeguarded. When folks call us, we're collecting some pretty sensitive information. It's not just name, address, telephone number. We're getting date of birth. We're getting social security numbers. So yeah, definitely ensuring that staff is properly trained. This includes attending security trainings, informing the employees of current hoaxes and how they happen, and also how to identify a potential scam. Another step that businesses can take is to implement the checks and balances system whenever possible. And this actually encourages having more than one person oversee financial transactions, which oftentimes can decrease the likelihood of mistakes being made and scams being committed from within the organization. And finally, individuals also have a separate set of rules that we always suggest they abide by. The main one really is to periodically pull their credit reports and pull them from all three of the main credit bureaus, which we know is Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, in order to confirm the accuracy of what's being reported. Obviously, if there's anything you don't recognize, anything you don't agree with, you obviously want to just file a dispute immediately. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think especially if you're a small business owner and you only have a few employees, you may not be thinking about training on how important it is if you're accessing a social security number. The employee may just think, well, this is clerical work. But in these days, in the days of the information age, collecting data is not clerical work. It's like some of the most important work that people can do. And there has to be trust that this information is kept confidential, and emphasize how important, how vital that is, and how it can have these far-reaching impacts if you are careless with it.
Yeah.
Karen,
if I can just toss in what we
Sure.
do as a business owner, two-factor authentication. That is critically important for every account. Our Google accounts, everything we do here has two-factor authentication. That makes sure that we are, as individuals, accountable and responsible for how to ensure that we're accessing the data in a safe manner. And I will say, number two, to add to it, we subscribe to a service where our staff, we receive phishing emails. And if we click on the links, we actually get a notice, oh no, and we have an online training immediately to say that, to educate us. So our education is not a one-time thing. I would say every business owner needs to, and when I speak of this, people, it's hard because business owners see dollar signs, but you really, to protect yourself and to address this very issue of scams, you need to have a strong IT vendor, IT investment for firewalls, everything you do. You really need the counsel of legal counsel and your risk
Yes.
insurance, a good cybersecurity policy. So investing in your business, because I actually say outside of our employees, the most important thing I have is the data of my customers.
Hmm. That is so important, and we just need to get that information out there. Um, and yeah, you're right. There's dollar signs. Small business owners are always looking at the bottom line. There may not be much of a margin from a profit perspective for the products that they're selling, but you have to think there's this cost, but then the greater cost in terms of time, resources, and just stress if you are breached, or if you've released information or your employees have released information. It may be accidental, but for the person who's the victim, there's, they still have to live with those impacts, and it could end up costing you money. You could be subject to a lawsuit.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's really important. Thank you for bringing that up. So Armand, let me ask you, what are some of the impacts that victims, particularly businesses and individuals of scams, suffer, and what kinds of things does your organization help with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, the repercussions resulting from scams can be extensive, and they can be far-reaching. Most of us, immediately think of the financial harm caused, but for businesses, there are also reputation and credibility standings that are at risk. And also on the other side, in addition to upfront money lost and potential damage to their credit, individuals can also suffer stress, anxiety, and embarrassment. And you just spoke of this after a scam. And these can often be debilitating and even more difficult to recover versus a monetary loss. And in my opinion, they're actually, worse repercussions. I can share a personal story if I may.
Sure.
My elderly mother not too long ago was starting to share a story with me when she was on the computer. This was about a year or so ago. And she mentioned to me she got a pop-up screen that led her that stated that there was a virus on her computer. And in order to repair it or resolve it, there was an 800 number. Immediately, I didn't even let her finish the story, Karen. I immediately knew what was going on. And,
Yes.
The story does have a happy ending because there was no monetary loss. But unfortunately, I could see it. There was embarrassment. There was shame. She had that feeling of why, how could I let this happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
So, when we talk about impacts, there's of course the monetary impact, but a lot of times there's other, consequences, like stress and anxiety and of course embarrassment.
Well, while we're sharing, I guess I should confess that the same thing happened to my mother, where she was on the computer, she was on an iPad and got a pop-up saying that there was something terribly wrong, and she was engaging, and then I think my sister happened to be home at the time, and she was about to give her credit card information because she really thought something was wrong. And my sister was like, don't do that, don't do that. So she didn't. But, it was just like 1 second, and it would have made a big difference in terms of her credit card.
I'd like to think that we're in an age where, if there is a virus or something wrong with our computer, that we're actually going to get proactively, notified. But,
Right.
let's face it, we're not there. We're the ones that have to reach out to either the geek squads or whoever it is to get it fixed.
I just said to my mom, it's like, if you don't remember anything else, this isn't your fault, that's the crook's fault, but if you don't remember anything else, $1 trillion corporations don't care if your computer works or not.
You're right.
They just kind of have other things on their mind. What can I tell you? So let me ask you, Angie, what are you seeing as the types of scams impacting small businesses that might get reported to the Better Business Bureau?
Great question. And I'm going to say you just mentioned the one, your scenario was individuals, but businesses are held ransomware, being held ransom, having the pop-up screens has happened to us here in our place of employment. So that, the tech, what we call the tech scams, we know that is a very big one. I would say the next one that we experienced for the last 2 years, most employers have been weary of or touched by employment scams.
Yes.
Unemployment, receiving notices on that somebody's filed unemployment, and they're seeking personal identifying information, and they're expecting us to actually give that information. So that's really hit us hard. And I would say another really big one is going to be the fake emails, the emails that are sent to my director of finance, to my HR specialist, who say, pretend that they're the CEO, their owner, and the email will suggest, please send this money through wire transfer, gift cards, send money to somebody else. Or and they're going to think, oh, it came from Angie because it's got her signature. So somebody posing as the decision maker and encouraging employees to push money forward in some type of platform, that is a really big one. So phishing scams, phony invoices, phony sales, all of those have always been there and have, but I will say with more and more technology, the tech scams that we mentioned, and receiving communications telling us to put money or give information out, those are the big ones. And we come across those almost daily.
So let me ask you this. I mean, individuals are told, and I know that we at AARP Maryland preach, do not click on links in emails, do not click on links in text. But businesses live and die by emails. So is that advice that you recommend for small businesses and their employees, or is that workable in a business environment?
Yeah, what we do is, first of all, we know how to hover, make sure that link appears to be sensible and make sense to us. And in addition, this is where we really rely heavily on having good malware, having good protections, firewalls, all of those things built into our system that we have IT experts install to build the firewalls to protect us if we do click on something. And think about BBB, think about all of us in the work we do. Part of what we do is we verify, is this a scam? So we're much more likely to click on those links just to see, is this a scam? So our protection comes with investing in good IT services, and that's the hardware, the software, and the experts to come and help us protect ourselves from ourselves.
Right. Thank you. And, the other thing that I just want to know is with regard to ransomware, which is, a major problem, is that these crooks are shifting from, we're just going to co-opt your data to, if you don't pay us, then we're going to release the data out. It could be proprietary information that a business has related to products that they've invented or something like that. And they may have backup systems, but if the ransomware person releases that information anyway, the backup isn't that useful. So that can be a problem. That can be a huge problem.
Oh, absolutely. Data breaches are, that is one of, I'll say Armand really hit it spot on in terms of trust in your business and trust. Those ransomware and the release of data breaches, all of those are rolled into your customer isn't going to trust you anymore once that occurs, and you really decrease that, and it's hard to build it back. So, and that's, you have to flip that and say that's how businesses also become victimized by scammers, is because scammers can buy those so much data on the black at dark web, they can buy that data and use it to try to fool a business owner. So, and remember, if and that's why you need insurance and an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
If the data breach occurs, I do have a responsibility. I must give notice and proper notice and within a proper time frame and report it to the state. So that's an important resource that and responsibility I need to take as a business owner.
Thank you. And Armand, let me ask you, what are you telling your clients in terms of ways that they can help spot a scam to maybe prevent it before they get victimized by it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and there are a number of ways. I mean, let's face it, the level of sophistication is not low. When I think, when I used to think, I should say, of a scammer, or, I'm thinking somebody in a hoodie in a basement, just typing on a computer.
Right.
But the more we learn about this, the more we get exposed to what's going on. A lot of it is automated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there, and Angie mentioned something earlier that I wanted to touch on is the security trainings, and how to hover over, an email. We're actually, we have a point system. Right. So we'll deliberately get sent a little phishing email just to see, hey, is this person going to click on it? Right. Is this person? So now I'm even extra cautious because I want to get at the top of the list of that little point system that we have. But it's making me in my own personal life, be extra cautious, be extra wary of what's going on, because we have to be on our toes. But to answer your question, Karen, there are several red flags to look out for that can help us in spotting a scam. A lot of these fraudulent attempts come to us through the internet and obviously, of course, via email. One way to check if an email is legitimate, again, is, as Angie mentioned, to hover over the sender's email address before clicking on it. A lot of times this will cause a screen to pop up that displays the true email address, which might be different from the one that's actually being displayed, right?
Right.
Another warning is being asked to send money via gift cards, right? That's always a red flag. They're almost impossible to trace. Sometimes, honestly, it's just a matter of trusting your gut. If everything looks okay, but the message doesn't read like something that person would say, of course, question before acting on it. There's nothing wrong with confirming by reaching out to the sender via your own method. There's a scams and identity theft workshop that we offer. And in that, we share that in approximately 1/3 of identity theft cases, the crime is actually being committed by a family member of the victim. Which, in my opinion, I think hurts even more.
Right? Without a doubt, because these are people that you trust. So, and at AARP Maryland, I will just reiterate that we are constantly saying gift cards are for gifts. If somebody's asking you to pay for something with the gift card, that is a scam. Just period, full stop. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. It's a scam.
Not even a red flag. It's a scam.
It's just a scam, you know. So yeah, use gift cards for your family and friends. Don't use them to pay businesses or the IRS or the Social Security or whoever it is. Now, here's we're starting to get questions in the chat, so let me shift to those. Here's a question: should small businesses shred old documents?
Oh, amen. I can jump in and do that. We just did it for our own business. And just as a rule of thumb, anything that was 10 years and older, we eliminated, and there are some exceptions. So what we did is we secured from our CPA firm, accounting firm, we secured a document that told us exactly what to keep and what we could eliminate. But, when my old records are sitting around, even if they're in a warehouse, they're susceptible. It has personal identifying information. So just know your timeline for each set of documents and shred. And we, old checks, even old personnel, pay stubs, things like that. Absolutely. And we use a firm to shred it. So that's a big deal, but I would secure that information from a financial advisor to know exactly what a business, not an individual, but a business should retain.
Great. And what about your organization, Armand? What do what are CCCSMD practices in that regard?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, the highest level that we can possibly get, that includes shredding. I mean, we actually partner with, right now, last week, as a matter of fact, we partnered with Howard County in a shred event. So we're big proponents of shredding. We have shred documents everywhere, with a good portion of our staff working remotely. We emphasize that greatly. I have a shredder, where I live. And it's important, right? It's important because as much as I'd like to put on myself on a do not call list or do not mail, I'm still getting, I don't want to say a ton of it. It's definitely reduced from before, but a good amount of it, right? So anything that's got my PII, it's got my name, my address, it's going in that shredder. It's going right in there, because it's important, right? There's still dumpster diving going on. There's still, and again, we know that, if somebody wants to get it, there, the level of sophistication isn't low, but we can only do, as much as we can to try to, minimize it.
Right. I've personally, on my personal journey, I've released the idea that when the phone rings, it actually is for me. I just assume it's for somebody else. That's what I'm doing. So here's another question. Are there some types of small or some types of businesses that are more susceptible than others to being scammed?
In my experience, I'm going to say not necessarily. There are more types of businesses that have heavier security in their technology. So a CPA firm, a law firm, they're really going to have many layers of protection. And but I believe that your local, anybody who is any business that has is collecting credit cards, is collecting financial information, personal information, you want to make sure that you're doing business with somebody who has those protections. But today, because everybody uses technology, we're collecting data. I would say, do I think one is more likely to be than another? No, not in my experience as reported to BBB.
Okay, yeah, this particular tide's washing over all the small business boats, I guess.
Amen. Yeah.
Here's one thing I would like to address too with you, Armand. What are some of the things that your organization does to help people once they've been scammed? What are some of the things that you help them do to recover?
Sure. Be happy to. Well, this is something, again, we discussed in great detail during our scams and identity theft workshop. We recommend several actions, one of which is, first of all, you want to determine the severity of the breach, right, and act accordingly. If it was a credit card, for example, that was compromised, then of course immediately reporting that to the credit card issuer is going to be super important. Immediately filing a police report should also be an instant reaction. As a matter of fact, a lot of the financial institutions will require something like that before they even consider any reimbursement of funds or any dispute resolution.
Mm-hmm.
If a fraud, for example, involved security credentials, of course, changing username and password logins are going to be necessary. Actually, changing the logins on a regular basis is something that we recommend, even when there's no fraud involved. Another suggestion we offer is to place a fraud alert on your credit report if you've had your identity stolen. This actually cautions creditors that you may have been the victim of fraud, and it encourages them to take extra steps if and when they receive a credit application to confirm it's actually from you. Our approach, Karen, is always a holistic one. So we start by conducting a very thorough, very detailed analysis, right? So someone reaches out to us, maybe the victim of a fraud or a scam. Everything is individual, is specific, right? So the steps that one person take can be slightly different than the steps somebody else takes, but it usually involves, our approach is try to be proactive. But if it's already happened, then we want to see the severity. We want to, and see what's going on. So we can, a lot of times there's a lot of hand holding involved, and we could walk someone through, this is the step that you need to take. This is the next thing that you need to do. This is the phone call that you need to make. It really depends on what kind of fraud or what kind of scam was involved. That'll help us determine what the appropriate solution is going to be.
And Karen, if I could mention really quick,
Sure.
we refer so many people to the FTC has a step by step what happens if you're a victim, all the, and it's literally, they'll even have some of the sample letters, emails that you can send to your creditors, etc. So that, and of course, our 3 credit reporting bureaus, they too have step-by-step direction. So anytime you suspect you might be a victim of identity theft or you suspect credit card fraud, please go and follow those directions step by step. That's available to the public and incredibly reliable.
Yes. And again, it's all free.
One thing, if I may add, Karen, is one of the things that I began doing a while ago, and again, this is on an individual basis, is using credit card versus debit card. And it's a huge change for me because I was always the opposite. I'm like, look, if I don't have the cash in the bank right now, I'm not going to purchase it. However, you know, again, due to an unforeseen experience, an unfortunate one, my wife, again, weren't out any monetary funds, but we were still compromised. And it took a while to get reimbursed. So since then, I was like, no, from now on, it's only credit card, because if there is a fraud, I'm simply going to dispute it. I won't pay it. I'll let the credit card issuing bank take care of it. Whereas if it's a debit card, obviously, you know, it's coming directly out of a checking account, and then you have to go through a lot of, hoops and hurdles in order to get reimbursed. So.
And credit card companies are very motivated to find out if fraud, because it's their money on the line. When you use a credit card, that's not your money, it's their money. So they're going to find out if there was fraud involved. And they have far more, I know my credit card company has a lot more resources than I do to find the crooks out there. So I'm let them work for me. Lord knows I'm paying enough in membership fees. So, so let me ask you, as we begin to wrap up, what about reputation damage? Are there steps that businesses or individuals can take to address reputation damage that may be the result of a scam?
Yeah, we're going to always say immediate transparency is the best thing. Don't try to, sweep things under the rug, if you will, is to be very transparent. It is what it is. And we always immediately go to, here's what we learned, here's what we're doing about it, we'll do about it, and here's what we learned from it as a result of. We want to communicate what it is we're going to change as a result of that data breach or that occurrence, what we're doing to protect you. And we all have been enough victims of data, are having our information shared in a data breach. And we know that many companies will offer to a free credit monitoring process. And just a quick reminder, every one of us should be monitoring our own credit, all the time. We can do it free, we can do it ongoing, and we shouldn't wait for a service to do it. But
Right.
those are a couple of things we tell businesses in terms of reputation management: transparency, immediacy, and action steps. You've got to do it. You can't, it is what it is. What are you going to do about it? How
Right.
are you as a business owner going to handle it?
Right. Exactly. That's great. Thank you so much to both of you. This has been great information, and we don't really talk that much about the damages that scams and frauds can perpetrate on small businesses or businesses in general, as well as individuals. So this is great information. And I want to point everybody to www.protectweek.org. You will find resources related to Protect Week, preventing fraud, not only for elders, but for everybody. And you'll find resources from the Better Business Bureau, the Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Maryland. They are partners in Protect Week. And there's great information, as I said. Remember, gift cards are for gifts. And if a scam does happen to you, because are you walking and talking? Do you breathe air? A scam can happen to you. It's not your fault. It's the criminal's fault. So please don't be ashamed. It wasn't you. It was them. That's the one time you can say it when it's really true. So just go out of your way to report it. Maybe you can prevent that fraud from happening to somebody in your family or from somebody in your community. So thank you again, Armand Goitoya from the Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Maryland, Angie Barnett from the Better Business Bureau. This has been a conversation from www.protectweek.org. See you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.